Welcome to the Marketing on the Move podcast, hosted by The Breezy Company, your go-to resource to master your marketing while juggling all of the demands of being a business owner. We understand that your time is a limited resource and marketing might be the last thing on your priority list right now. Our mission is to provide you with tangible insights and actionable tactics into the latest marketing trends, best practices, and strategies that you can implement no matter how busy you are. Each episode is designed to offer practical advice on leveraging your unique business strengths and efficiently managing your marketing strategy. Whether you're tuning in during your morning commute, between meetings, or while on the run, Marketing on the Move is here to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in marketing, even when your schedule is packed. Join us for a journey into making the most of your marketing efforts, no matter how busy you are. Hey there, welcome to the Marketing on the Move podcast. This is actually our very first episode, so we're super excited for you to be listening in. This podcast exists as a part of the Breezy Company to help make marketing simpler and easier for you. We believe that every small business owner, startup founder, consultant, thought leader deserves to have great marketing that moves your business forward to where you want it to be. So my name is Savannah Abney. I am a co-founder and the chief content officer for Breezy Content as part of the Breezy Company. And then I also have our CMO and co-founder, Josh Webb, as well as our content creative director, Emily Hunter, with me today. Super excited to talk about thought leadership content, and I'll let them say hey as well.
Hello, everybody. My name is Josh Webb. Like Savannah said, I'm the CMO, one of the partners here at the Breezy Company. And I'm super excited that we're doing this because every single one of our clients is constantly on the move. And so we're trying to figure out how we can show people how they can still do marketing, but be constantly busy. And it actually is possible.
Hey everyone, my name is Emily Hunter. I'm the content creator director here, and I am responsible for a little bit of everything. I'm involved on the client side, I'm involved on the content side. So I see a wide spectrum of kind of how content comes into play and how it turns into leads for businesses. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So what we're talking about in this episode is why your business needs to be a thought leader in your industry and space and actually how to get it there. So I want to address first what thought leadership actually is, and then we'll kind of get into the content around it. But it's a really buzzy term. If you scroll LinkedIn for 5 minutes, you're going to see the term thought leader somewhere. So I think it becomes a little bit confusing to understand actually what a thought leader is, and then how content can be made kind of in that category. So Emily deals with clients on a daily basis. She's also leading our entire team of content creators. So this is her bread and butter. And so I want to actually have her answer. So it's a buzzy term. What does it actually mean to be a thought leader?
Yeah, I think thought leadership, I think the easiest way to put it is kind of being a guru in your space. That's something that we talk about a lot. It's being able to not just know the education around your space and know the stats and statistics around your industry and what's going on, but to be really involved, to be working in it day to day, to see clients and their problems and solutions. So being able to communicate that instead of just, I know what my industry is, I work in my industry, let me tell you all about it. It's the insider secrets. It's what an expert knows that you maybe don't. It's finding out all of those things rather than just that basic layer of education, I find is the difference.
So really thought leadership is kind of creating a persona for yourself or your brand if you're looking at a business, if you're not an individual. So it's kind of being seen as a certain way in the marketplace. Like that's the go-to person for that thing in this space. That's the source I want to go to for this information. So it might be kind of obvious why that's a major benefit, but I want, Josh has 25 plus years of experience in marketing, has worked with huge brands, has also worked with very small startups. He's kind of run the gamut of thought leaders and creating this type of persona and this sort of brand for yourself. But Josh, I'd love to just get your take on why you believe it's so beneficial for particularly, I would say, small businesses and startups to develop these personas in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'd say is that people that are coming to you, I mean, you'll hear me say this a lot, they don't necessarily care about everything you know. What they really care about is what's going to help them survive and thrive as a person. What's going to help me with my business? I have a certain attitude about myself, so I would say the first thing is kind of identifying who you're talking to, and know that if they're watching watching you, it's not just because of how great you are. It a lot of times has to do with the fact that you're going to say something that is either a challenge they've had or a challenge they've tried to overcome or something they're trying to complete, and then they're going to build trust with you over time. So that's what you're really trying to develop is the persona that you're talking to, and how can you empathize personally with them and build trust.
I think a lot of times we think about thought leadership specifically too for big corporations, really big brands. And it's like this, big brand, fill in the blank, whatever it is, they're the go-to for this sort of tech or this sort of information or whatever it may be. So I think being able to understand that can be just as powerful for smaller businesses and smaller brands, which is mostly what we tend to work with, as well as solopreneurs, individual consultants, coaches. That's a lot of who we work with at the Breezy Company. That same approach to thought leadership can be just as powerful. One of my favorite examples that I share with people pretty regularly, we have one of my favorite clients, one of my favorite accounts we have is a small company, but it's a fractional CFO company. So they go in and they work with small businesses and startups who can't necessarily afford to have a full-time CFO on staff. They really need a true financial officer that's leading their strategy and really helping them kind of get to where they want to be financially. Really cool business. And the founder, great guy, great personality, had a pretty good LinkedIn presence before we came on to work with them. But the company had basically nothing going on digitally outside of their website. Didn't have a whole lot happening. And I saw an opportunity where it was like, yeah, we need to create content for this business and for the company to have social proof and build credibility and authority. But how we're really going to be able to see traction is if we build up the founder as this big thought leader in the financial space, specific to business owners, and being able to help, kind of leverage his personal brand to build the company, to drive traffic to those pages, and kind of make the company known because he's known. That really, we've seen really great success with that strategy. It comes out practically in a lot of different ways, creating specific content just for his pages, publishing strategies that we change up and we do different things with. But that has really made such a difference, like one individual that can stand out and really be that thought leader that is the face of the brand.
I'll say something real quick. One thing I've been surprised at inside the companies we work with, like even if they're a larger company and working within a department, is that they think that they, why would anybody listen to things I have to say? And one of the things that I've liked the most is an oil company that we work with. That it's a fuel company where we are working with not just the founders, but also all the different experts. And I think a lot of people that are inside a company, they only think of one person as the thought leader. Maybe he's kind of the star of the company or something, but they don't think of themselves. And so when we go and there's an actually interesting topic, like how does the price of fuel actually work? I think that's a really good example where it's like, everybody has thoughts, but you're a thought leader in this one space. You're actually showing them what you know. And it actually was very interesting for people within the industry, for people that they actually serve, like the companies that they were already their clients. And so it shows how much expertise they have, but it also is very interesting content.
And what we did with that specific example is we identified specific people in like managerial roles in that company that had really deep subject matter expertise in a specific area of the business. And we did interviews with them. Well, then we turned that into podcast kind of content, audio clips, video clips, things like that. And we showcased that individual. So now not only are you showing that the brand has these really great thought leaders, you're showcasing them in a really personal, individual way, giving them a lot of spotlight to help build up their personal brand, which just kind of continues the cycle. So it kind of feeds each other and it snowballs. And that was actually some of the most engaging content we had for that client last year, as far as if you look at their social stats. So that worked really well. Emily, I'd love for you to jump into, you're doing client work on a really regular basis and dealing with a lot of our accounts. What have you kind of seen work really well for thought leadership, and like, what do you see is been effective so far?
So I think one thing I've seen really across the board, I can't even think over the other what this specific tactic may have done for different companies better than each other. I think this is just a good kind of place to start when it comes to thought leadership. I think something that always gets people thinking when we're starting those initial conversations around, like, first of all, why do I need to talk about these things? Like, there's already so much information out there. And also kind of that thought process of, well, I don't have anything to add to the conversation necessarily, but something that gets people thinking and talking about that is the idea of what are the questions that you are already getting? Like, when you're in those client conversations, when you're in sales conversations, what are the questions that people are asking you? Because those people generally are in your same space. They have the same resources that you have, but they don't have that little nugget of thought leadership content that lives in your brain. So you need to be able to talk about it and share that with people and others who are like that client who has that question. It's like in a classroom, like, ask the question because probably other people have that same one and they're going to find value in that thing. So I think people try to think too hard about it and try to come up with some mystical, magical, something that they can share with the world, when in reality, often it's being delivered to them just through those conversations with their clients. And that content tends to perform very, very well.
Well, it's also hard when you just sit down in front of a blank page, and it's like if you guys said, "Hey, can you tell me everything you've learned over the last 25 years?" I was like, I don't even know where to start. But if you start to talk to me about challenges that my customers have, or challenges that I see or people ask me all the time, that's when they kind of light up, and all of a sudden you start to capture a little bit of the subject matter expert they are. And you can kind of let their expertise shine in their content a little bit.
It's not typically hard to sell people, and we're doing sales every day for the Breezy Company, so it's not typically hard to sell people on this idea, this concept. They're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. I understand thought leadership content can be really powerful. I understand it could be a great traffic driver, a lead generator for me, all of that. But how would we even start? Like, what strategically, like, not really practically, not even tactically, but I get this question a lot, like, what would that even look like? So Josh is really our resident strategist on the whole, and we really rely a lot on what he brings to the table from a story brand strategy standpoint with our clients to then create, kind of a sub content strategy from that. So Josh, let's say you had somebody who came to you, they have a brand new startup, they're a new founder, they don't have much of a personal presence really anywhere, they don't have any, but they have tons of experience, they're really knowledgeable, and they want to be able to leverage their personal brand as well as their company to kind of become a thought leader in a space. What are kind of the first few things that you tell them to do on the whole?
Well, I mean, the first thing is I got to talk them into having some kind of exercise, because these people are busy and they don't necessarily take time to think. But what we'll do is we will actually work through a persona exercise. I do things like I ask them what favorite celebrity does this person remind you of? And they'll go, I guess, Jim from The Office. It kind of looks like him. I've had Matthew McConaughey. I've had, and I've been surprised at how good these people look, because they always tend to pick like really good looking people. But when we go through their personas, there's a little bit of demographic information in there. But we ask questions like, what is something you hear this person say often? And they go, oh, every single time I talk to them, they say, oh, I'm super covered up, or just show me the numbers, or and so it shows a little bit of their attitude of the place that their mind is at when they go into these situations. And then we start talking about what their goals are, and we try not to say anything about the company. This is just about the person themselves, as it has to do with what they're facing, pretending like your company doesn't exist. And these are the goals. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this, and this. These three main goals I'm trying to get. And then you start going into the challenges. What are the challenges that are getting in the way of them accomplishing those things? And so when you've started to create a persona like that, and we give them cute little names, like Refrigerator Ridge. Was that a good one? But we give them cute names that try to get them, like Procurement Pete was one of them that we had recently, that remind you of them. But when we start to take that over into the content strategy realm, now you start to go, okay, here are all the things they said were challenges. Here's all the things they said they wanted. Let's separate those out. Now those are all categories. Now, if I knew that that was a category, then I start to ask the question of the person, why do you think they're having that problem? What would you do about that problem? How can you empathize with that problem? What case studies do you have that show you solving that problem? And that's just one category. Mm-hmm. You just keep moving down the list. Before you know it, you really have an entire wheel based on this one persona that has all these problems. And we assume that you have, let's say you have 10 type customers you serve, even within the B2B space. Mm-hmm. And that happens often. And so that itself, before you even get into the content realm, now you take somebody like Emily who starts to look at all these different challenges, and she starts going, that's a quote, that's a customer testimonial, that's a video interview. And you end up with a lot of really great content, not just, posting on social media.
Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that and this is just, you're a StoryBrand certified guide, Josh. We operate off a StoryBrand framework with all of our clients. But the point is, everything that you do in a strategy session when you're working with a client is to figure out what their target audience needs. We're not really concerned, especially when it comes to specific thought leadership content. It's never about you. Like, you're not trying to gain anything specifically from this. You're just trying to provide value. You're trying to show off expertise in a humble way. And you're trying to build that credibility and authority. And that's what we want to do in every bit of the content we create as well, that's in that thought leadership sort of, realm. So Emily, we do this a lot where Josh will do a strategy session with the client. We'll get that StoryBrand script back, that framework. And then you take that and employ it and actually, either you or one of our other teammates actually deploy a content strategy from that. What does that process kind of look like practically? And how do you take it from strategy and overall, like, we understand who we're talking to now, and then actually create really good thought leadership content from that?
Yeah, I think there are a few ways to do this. I find typically if we can get time on the calendar in our case, with our client, with the brand that's wanting to be a thought leader, I find that the number one best way to do this is just to get on a call with that person, talk through what are the things, like I mentioned earlier, what are those questions that you get on a regular basis? What are the main pain points that people come to you and they want you to solve? And kind of, have that StoryBrand strategy sort of nearby, but able to hear it in their voice, I find is often a really great way to kind of get the conversation started. And from there, asking them questions about, okay, so tell me a little bit more about this from your perspective as someone who's in your industry, who's operating in it day to day, who's solving these problems for people. What are some of those things? Like, tell me a time that this happened, and tell me a time how this worked out, that you solved this problem for a client. I think some other ways to do that are to have a conversation with them about hot topics in their industry. Oftentimes this will get people going, talking about things that maybe they wouldn't have thought of if I just said, hey, give me some thought leadership content. It's so hard to come up with anything on the fly like that. Mm-hmm. So I'll use something like AI as an example. Obviously that's a hot topic and been a hot topic for a long time now, but let's just say for literally any given client, if I'm talking about, hey, this hot topic, again, let's use AI as an example. How has that played a role in your industry? And what does that look like? What mistakes are people making around this hot topic? What problems are coming about because of this hot topic, in this case, AI? There's so many different things that people just may not even think about, that they have strong opinions or that they know something extra in their space and how AI applies in their space that people don't know, that there's just not the education piece around. So I think that just kind of having those conversations and bringing things up and just kind of throwing things at the wall and see what sticks is often, it sounds silly, but that's often one of the best ways to get people really talking and having meaningful conversations that will provide value to their audience.
Well, and I think it's okay if they disagree with there's maybe somebody else in there. Right? That's a really good conversation. I think about this. I think it like this, and I think a lot of times they'll sit there and try to craft these honed messages, and before they know it, the hot topic's not the hot topic anymore. We'll move on to something else, and you got to get it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that some of the best content that I've created for clients has come from, I'll see an article in their space, and me as the content creator, I'm thinking, okay, I know this is relevant to your space. I may not know the intricacies to understand if this truly applies, if this statistic or if this viewpoint applies with that business owner and the way they want to run their business. But if I send it to them and they totally wholeheartedly agree, amazing. I've got content that they can talk about why they agree or what their specific angle is on that. If I send it to them and they hate it, excellent. That's content that we can come up with, whether it's directly, you know, some people are a little bit more open to say, hey, I disagree with that and here's why. Or maybe it's just kind of fodder for their thought of, okay, I don't agree with that. What is my viewpoint? Even if it's not directly competing with that school of thought that the article or whatever is mentions. It's just great to kind of throw things at people and get them talking, because once they have started speaking and they don't feel like they have that kind of white paper syndrome of just looking at nothing and trying to come up with something meaningful for their audience, I find that works super, super well.
One of the biggest pitfalls that we see, I think, on a daily basis when it comes to thought leaders and content is they're so expert. They're such experts in their space and what they do that they assume that everybody else knows the things that they know. It's like such a pitfall that thought leaders fall into, and I see it constantly. Because if you have been at something for 10 years and you know it so well, you assume everybody else. It still cracks me up and amazes me when people talk about how we didn't put a link in the caption for an Instagram post.
All the
Because
time.
they literally don't understand that that's not how Instagram works. Like, that still blows my mind. And by the vast majority of people understand this, but still the point is there's still a percentage of the population that doesn't know how some of these things work. And that's true in your industry and every other industry out there, that people don't know what they don't know. And it's never, you're never going to go too far to share something too basic. Now, I think there is a difference between, and we'll get into this in another episode, educational content versus thought leadership. They are different things, certainly. But I think being able to share from your experience, even if you feel like it's so obvious, it's so duh, or you think everybody else has the same opinion, you never know. It could be completely different. You could be on to something that's really interesting, that's unique. And even if it's not, don't you want to be seen as somebody who is talking about these things in a, interesting way? Even if, it's not super different than anybody else, but you have your own unique voice, you have your own unique take on things that you should be able to share with the world.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with a guy that actually, it's a really complicated industry. But one thing he said that was pretty good was that, there's a lot of noise. There are a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of influencers out there. Everybody's kind of saying, I'm a thought leader. I'm a thought leader. I'm a thought leader. And what I said to him is that we use that term, and that term I think is still stands, but with so many people out there, it's easy to think that you're not one. And what I recommend to him is try to think of it as trust building. The only thing that you're doing is the same thing you might do in a presentation, the same thing you might do in a meeting or in a sales conversation, is that you're putting them at ease, you're helping solve some issues, you're building trust. And wouldn't it be great if you had already built trust by the time they met you? And that's the conversation we ended up having, was about social proof and building trust before they met them. And they'll really start to lean on you for that kind of information. Even though there technically is 100 people they could go find, they found you and they're listening to you and they are a really good potential customer.
Absolutely. I think a really quick takeaway, if you didn't catch anything else in this episode, just to understand what it kind of all boils down to, is becoming a thought leader is just an essential part of having a thriving business at this point. It's an essential part of being able to cut through the noise and be a go-to source for people so that they're not looking at anybody else or anything else. They're coming to you again and again for that kind of information. That builds trust over time. That builds a lead over time. That's just ultimately what it is. So it's the why behind it. And the how, I think there's 5 simple things that make up great thought leadership content. Share what you believe will help the audience. It doesn't matter beyond that what it is. Share what you believe will help the audience and will provide value to them. It doesn't matter if it gains anything for your business, for your brand. It doesn't matter if it's different than what others in your industry are doing or your competitors are doing. Share what you believe will actually help the audience again and again. That's where you're really going to succeed. Don't make it about you. It's not about your brand. It's not about your business. There's times for ads. There's times for self-promotion. This is not it. Thought leadership content should never be about that. Be consistent. If you want to be a go-to source, people have to know they can count on you. They have to know that you're not going to just, post something once every quarter, maybe, and they're not going to be able to go to you again for more information. If they don't feel like you have a consistent posting schedule, they're not going to go to you as a source again and again. So don't bite off more than you can chew on this. Like, we love at least a minimum of 4 social posts per week for all of our clients. But if you know, like, I can't commit to that, there's just no way, be very reasonable and realistic with what you can do, and then be really disciplined about it. If you know that you can make a post every single Wednesday, make a post every single Wednesday, make it happen.
Don't let that be
That's essential.
and don't let that be an excuse not to do it. That's why there are things there. It's really easy to say, I have no time for this, and therefore, I just don't think we're going to be able to pull this off. That's what companies like the Breezy Company is for.
Absolutely. 2 more things. Make your content look great. People will not care if it looks like crap, period. That's just the facts. If your content does not look great, it is so easy to make great looking design now. There's just so many tools. There's so many ways to do it, and so many services as well, that if you are not at least in line with the average, you're going to get left behind, because nobody's going to care. They're not going to take it seriously because it looks terrible. And last thing, be engaging. You cannot post and ghost anymore. That will not work. There was a time on social media where you could post something really amazing, leave the platform, and it would still do well. That is not how the algorithm works anymore. And it doesn't matter what platform you're talking about. You have to get on there. You have to engage with like-minded accounts. You have to go out and search for the kinds of clients you want to be working with, the types of customers you want to get. You have to go out and follow them and engage with their content. You have to actually post stories. You have to do these different things, comment, like, share things, thoughtful comments. Do not use AI for this. This is where you'll really get caught with that. You have to be engaging. So those are my kind of 5 top things for great thought leadership content. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that list?
Let's think, Emily.
I think one of the best, yeah. I think one of the best things that I have seen myself as a content creator is the value of having that third person in the conversation to help you understand what you know that maybe most people don't. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a conversation with a new brand in a new industry, or even in like a different sector of the same industry, and they say something and my mind is blown as just a normal person who's not actively in their industry day to day. And they would never have thought to tell me that thing unless we had been talking and asking questions and all of that. So I think the value, if it's your friend, if it's your sister, if it's a content creator that you bring in outside, having that person that can come in and say, oh, that's really good. There's so much to be said for that.
Every time I say things, nobody seems mind blown by the things I say. So I think you guys need to start using these tactics on me. But no, I'll say what I said before. Everybody within the industry, I see lots of different excuses. You can tell that they want to produce this kind of content. You can tell they want to do something, but most of them have tried and failed at some point. Whether they've tried themselves, they've tried with their niece, they've tried lots of different tactics. Everybody in the organization is going to post on one day a week. They try different things, and because it doesn't work, they don't say, oh, I've tried and it's failed. They say, I don't think content works. And that is not the case. The reason your content doesn't work is because you're not producing any. And so what I would recommend is that you find some way to make that marketing machine kind of run. We've created a solution for you, but you can do it, and we can be your cheerleaders and kind of not only help you to do it, but we can ensure that stuff gets posted, and so that you can look later and say, okay, I've built that trust. I'm educating my customers. We're doing it right now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for listening to the first episode of the Marketing on the Move podcast. If you want more practical and actionable tips on ways to grow your business, check out all of our resources at thebreezycompany.co or in today's show notes. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Marketing on the Move. If you're looking for more ways to improve your marketing and build a scalable system to help your business grow, check out thebreezycompany.co or any of the resources linked in today's show notes.